Good morning. That's not the right lock there. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to High Top Sports Game Day. Good to see you. Happy week 3. This show is brought to you by BetUS. We have an all-star lineup with us today. First on the slate, we've got the man from Alabama, Tai, a.k.a. Blaze Hayes. Ladies and gents, Tai, how you doing, big guy?
I can't complain. I'm here. College football is here, and Alabama goes on the road, so it's going to be a good day.
I love it. Next on the list, we got Derek the Duck Zelmer. Oh boy, we got an in-state rival here today, boys, with the Ducks and the Bees. It's gonna be a good one. Hopefully, this smile carries over to tomorrow. Derek, how you feeling, big guy?
So far, so good. Like I said earlier this week, I decided we're back. So, I'm feeling good until, maybe the Beavs crush my dreams later today. But yeah, right now, man, just excited to be here.
It's never good when you get spanked by the Beavs. Moving on to YouTube royalty, Miss Allie Peak. Allie, how you doing? How you feeling about the Gators versus A&M today?
You know what? I'm saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. Look, I'll take it. That's all we need right now. Boys and girls, we got Oregon, we got Florida, and of course, Alabama with Tai Hayes going up against Wisconsin. It's going to be a good show. Be sure to sit back, relax, grab yourself some coffee. It is the morning. Unless you want to drink, it is a game day as well. So whatever you need to do. But first order of business, we got Mr. Tai Hayes with Alabama. Tai, you squeaked by USF yesterday, or last Saturday. Not really squeaked by. The score doesn't show the entire story, if I got to be honest here. And I feel like at this point, USF just kind of has Bama's number. Doesn't matter if it's Saban, DeBoer. Doesn't matter who's there. USF just got you guys figured out a little bit. How you guys feeling coming after the close win there last Saturday?
I completely agree with you. The score doesn't reflect at all what happened in that game. For 3.5 quarters, it was a dogfight. But this is what I will say. One, USF runs an offensive scheme that's kind of difficult to zero in on, especially if you have a quarterback that's proficient in it. They do. One of the reasons why I loved playing USF early is because Nico and Tennessee also run the veer and shoot. I love getting all of those young guys in the secondary some experience with that tempo. USF runs more plays per minute than anybody in college football at 3. They blitz at a higher percentage than pretty much anybody in college football. And Todd Orlando does a great job of mixing up the blitzes where they're coming from. But he's kind of one of those guys, live by the sword, die by the sword. So what can be a strength for him, as soon as it gets figured out, can turn into a big weakness. One of the reasons why I'm not in panic mode yet, ma'am, is that I think there's something to it whenever we look at this through the lens of timing is everything. And what I mean is, last year we played USF in a monsoon. Quarterback situation was all over the place. They started a lacrosse player, for God's sakes, at quarterback. That didn't go well. This year, you have 2 offensive linemen who are out. Your All-American left guard, or a guy who I think will be an All-American, was slotted out to left tackle. New guard. Right tackle is a brand new player. And the offensive line is undergoing a complete scheme change. Todd Orlando did a great job of acknowledging that and creating chaos. So it's one of the things where I've gone back, watched it. I don't feel as bad about it, but I also don't know that Wisconsin poses those same risks in terms of the blitz that USF does. And sure, you could say, well, won't they blitz at a higher rate? They could, but you're not going to completely abandon your identity in favor of an identity that someone else effectively used against your opponent. That's just a recipe for disaster. And when you look at Wisconsin, Luke Fickell wants to run a 3-3-5, but he doesn't have the personnel. So right now, he's in between defensive schemes. He's running a modified 4-2-5, and he's doing his best with it. But when they get into the red zone, they switch out of that 4-2-5 to something else, a bit heavier to try and stop you. Interesting to note, they've given up touchdowns 100% of the time they're in the red zone. So this defense, it has players. Ricardo Hallman, I think, is a monster. 7 interceptions last year, but I just don't know that schematically it's the scheme that's going to challenge Alabama in the way I knew USF would challenge Bama.
That 3-3-5, we were talking about it last night with the Kansas State and Arizona game. I think both teams ran it a little bit, and I'm not a huge fan of it because you have to have the personnel to be able to maintain that defense. And when you have a mobile quarterback like you do in Jalen Miller, that 3-3-5 is tough. Just not enough speed off the edge. You stop the run up the middle, which we're going to talk about here, your breakout player, which is the running game. But if you break it outside and you don't have that linebacker play to get it done, you can get torn up pretty quick. It's what happened to TCU in Georgia in the national championship just a few years ago. Like you said, you got the Wisconsin Badgers. I'm glad that we get to have you on fairly often on the show because this is the first year without Saban. Look, credit to Deobor in Alabama, because I think this was easily the biggest headline coming into this season. But plenty of us, Florida being one of them, have done enough damage to themselves to take away from Deobor, and if he can handle the Alabama Crimson Tide fan base.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're here for you. It's taking that off the plate for you guys of what you guys, what it could entail. But this game right here is a sneaky one. It's 16 points. I took Wisconsin to cover, not to win, but just given going play in the jump house, you're coming off that struggle and win against USF. I think this will be a good staple to see if Deobor really bounces back. But go ahead and tell us about your breakout player today, Ty.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the 3-3-5, and it's Justice Haynes. I could have gone Jam Miller, but I think Jam Miller kind of had his breakout game last week with some of those big runs. Watch for Justice Haynes. Alabama runs that pin and pull scheme on the offensive line, which is why you had offensive linemen such as Caden Proctor in the offseason. At one point, they were saying he dropped close to 30 pounds because, one, he played too heavy last year. Two, in this pin and pull, I've never seen a coach pin and pull at the rate Kalen DeBoer does. So these offensive linemen are going to be asked to play in space. I bring that to your attention because you pointed out a glaring weakness for Wisconsin, and that's they have a tough time stopping the rush off the edge. Bama's going to be pulling Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, or whatever combination, and those guys are going to be lead blocking for a Justice Haynes, a Jam Miller, and a Jalen Milroe. That's going to be tough to stop, but I think this is the game where you're going to see Justice Haynes, because he's such a physical runner as well, really have a breakout performance.
It's fun seeing these young running backs really excel here these last couple of years. You see Jarrett Gibson doing well at Texas, Justice Haynes. These are all running backs that Florida at one point had a conversation, and so I'm fairly familiar with these. Now, did we ever actually have a chance? I don't know, but it felt like it at one point. Now, it will be see too if Bama gets back to those old ways of running the ball, right? I mean, that's something that Bama has been known for over the last decade, and so with DeBoer, I think sometimes this logo carries a ton of weight, and we forget that DeBoer is at the helm, and there should be a little bit of a different tempo on offense. But Bama should be good to go. Next week, who do the Roll Tide have?
They have the bye. And
okay, you guys set it up like Georgia.
Georgia.
Look at you two. Y'all definitely called each other before that. I love it.
Oh, gosh. And I'm really happy that Caden Proctor is back in this game, right? So now the offensive line theoretically is fully healthy. But I'm one of those people, man, that if you didn't have your offensive line completely healthy for at least one game before Georgia, I would not have felt good about that. It's one thing to be fully healthy. It's another thing to be fully healthy with no experience gelling in a new scheme, a new offensive blocking scheme, the whole 9 yards. Getting him back could be huge for Alabama moving forward during the season.
Bama to cover, or how are you feeling for the game?
Bama to cover. And the reason is because offensively, they don't, like, what is their identity on offense? And I'm not saying they don't have good players. I think that they have some good pieces, but they're not a power run team. They will completely go empty backfield at this point at some point. Tyler Van Dyke is, we've seen him do good things a while ago, but we saw it, right? It's etched in the history books. I just don't know what Wisconsin's identity is. And I think if they try and pass it, Alabama could be in a situation like we saw against Western Kentucky to get a few interceptions. And I have Alabama covering.
I love it. Ty, don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Hopefully we'll see a little blaze today. I appreciate you. Alabama versus the Wisconsin Badgers. That is a noon kickoff. Should be a good one there. Again, 16 and a half, depending on where you're looking, is the spread for that game. We'll get into some more spread talk a little bit later on. But we've got a big in-state rivalry today. Derek the Duck has been on life alert the last 2 weeks with how the Ducks have been performing. Coming into this game, I mean, they're favorites, but should they be? Derek the Duck?
Yeah, I see that little smirk. Sheldon is just enjoying this, my Oregon turmoil, a little bit too much so far throughout the season. But good news for Duck fans, we're done playing teams in the state of Idaho. I mean, for whatever reason, they just, they've been giving us the fits. But, theoretically, yeah, Oregon should be ranked today. And I think the spread is, fairly accurate as to what it actually should be. Now, whether that reflects to the on the field play today is, that's an entirely different story. I know earlier this week when we were talking about Oregon State's offense, they're averaging nearly 300 yards a game on the ground. And Oregon's defensive line has been a bit choppy, to say the least. And then as we all know, the main problem with this offense right now is the offensive line. There's no cohesiveness, no consistency there. They're running the true rotation on that offensive line as we speak. I think in 53 plays last week, we had 11 different combinations on that offensive line at different points. So, I mean, it's, at times it feels like we're throwing a dart at dartboards, just trying to get something to stick on that offensive line. But with that being said, I do trust in Lanning. And if there is going to be one game early in this year that Oregon gets it turned around, I'm going to go with it's going to be, the in-state rival. It's if you can't get up in the morning and get fired up to play, a glorified G5 team, it's, I mean, let's call it what it is, right? I mean, they got their little partnership with the Mountain West right now. They're basically a Mountain West school. Now they just poached, Boise, Fresno, Colorado State and San Diego State. So, I mean, they're running the Mountain West 2.0 next year. But if they can't get up and fired up for this game this morning, then, to be real honest, I'm hitting the panic button pretty quickly today.
We talked about it on our show, High Top Oregon. Look, the spread doesn't tell you who won the game, right? But we now, as fans and everybody, justifies the victory based on the margin, right, and based on cover. You took the Ducks to cover today. You feel like they should get up and going and get rocking and rolling. Oregon State has ran the ball very well, which so has Boise State and the Idaho Vandals. That was the Ducks' weakness. Everyone's talking about this offensive line, but this Ducks defense has kind of got sliced and diced a little bit too. We keep kind of slipping on just because of how atrocious the O-line has looked. I'm just laying into Derek. Derek, give us your breakout player for today, big guy.
Yeah, so we just talked about how Oregon State's averaging 300 yards a ground on the game, a game on the ground. And Derek Harmon is a dude who's leading the Power 4 in QB pressures this year. I think he's going to kind of be that force up front today, that if Oregon is going to break out of this little slump they're going through, it's going to start out with him today. And I think this is going to be his day where he really steps up. He does have quite a bit of starting experience with Michigan State before transferring to Oregon. And so far, since he's been here, he has been extremely effective. I know the numbers don't necessarily reflect it, but he's kind of the reason that there's so much disruption that does come from this defensive line. So I think today is going to be the day that he's able to step up. I think, he's probably going to walk away with close to 10 tackles today, just because Oregon State likes to run the ball between the tackles. I think ultimately this defensive line is going to be the difference in this game today. So I think Derek Harmon's going to have a massive game today.
Comments on Muddy's comments down there? Just trying to make sure the fans are involved in the show.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thanks, Muddy Waters. Overrated. To be honest, I don't even have an argument at this point. I don't think there's anything that we've seen from this Oregon team so far, against just massive opponents in the Idaho Vandals and Boise State. And, Boise State, they're a great G5 team. Obviously they're going to be pushing for a playoff spot at the end of the year. But with that being said, this is not the expectation. This is not the standard of the program. So, to be honest, when people say they're overrated at this point, I have no argument. It's up to Oregon and Dan Lanning to kind of go out there and show people that they're not overrated. And I'm hoping today's the good day where they're kind of able to break out of that little slump they've been in.
This isn't fun anymore. He's completely just waving the white flag. He doesn't even have any smirk comebacks or anything. He's just in shambles with how the Ducks are doing. I feel bad for you, big guy.
Well, like I said, man, it's like we are in shambles. We had all these expectations coming into the year, and then so far through 2 games, we're just absolutely limping by an Idaho team. And then, we get Boise State and we're like, oh, yeah, man, this is the week we turn it around. And then, Ashton Jonty does what he does and runs all over our face, which is, to be fair, the Boise State run game is phenomenal, right? I've said it multiple times over the last 2 weeks. I do think that he is the most NFL ready running back in the country as we speak right now. That's not to say that I think he should have ran all over our defense. I don't think that's acceptable. But with that being said, Boise State does have a solid run game. Oregon State does too. And that's kind of why I'm excited for this matchup today as well. Oregon State, they're going to run the ball on the ground. They're going to pound it over and over again. At one point against Oregon 2 years ago, they ran 18 consecutive times. And I think that's kind of going to be a similar recipe they try to use today. They do have some explosive players on the outside, but it's just not the consistency that, they're used to. And I don't even really want to say that because they were dealing with DJU last year. So, we know what that train wreck looks like. But I would honestly say, they got another Idaho guy and Giovanni is their quarterback. They do have some weapons on the outside, but it's going to come down to that run game today. And if Oregon's able to stop it, I don't think this game's going to be close when all said and done.
Derek may not come back to the show. We may we may have overstayed our welcome. Derek, I appreciate you. You know I love you. It's off. Look, I want the Ducks to do well, but I'm not gonna miss out an opportunity to get my shots in while I can. Derek has the Ducks obviously to cover the Oregon State Beavs today. Derek, don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a minute. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on. As always, ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by BetUS, and today we're bringing in Cowboy Tai to talk about the Cowboy Tai's parlay picks. What's going on, big dog? How you doing?
Oh, man. I just have to say one thing to Duck, man. I mean, he disrespected the Pac-12 leader right now. I mean, that's just disrespectful. All two teams right there.
He's got to get his shots in while he can. He's fired up this morning. Boys and girls, this show is brought to you by BetUS. So when you use the code YouTube150, you get back 150% on your first 2 deposits up to $2,000 and then $125 on that third deposit. So be sure to use the code YouTube150 at BetUS.com. These spreads are brought to you by BetUS. We got Ty's Parlay Party. Talk to us, Ty. What do we got?
Well, my first one is actually going to be the only top 25 matchup against each other, BC and Mizzou. I'm going to take BC in the points, and the only reason I'm doing that is because they can run the ball. And when you can run the ball, you control the clock. If you can keep Brady Cook off the field, I think 2 touchdowns is too much. I mean, if you limit the Mizzou possessions, you're going to take Luther Burden out of the game. You're going to take Brady Cook ball out of his hands, and I think they can run the football against that defense. And Castellanos makes enough plays, and I think they cover.
We've got some questions about BC later on. It's going to be fun to talk about. The Georgia minus 22 on BetUS. I have talked to the high top Georgia guy this week, and they're 1-8, mind you, heading into the bye week when they're supposed to cover. So do with that with what you will with that information, but you're feeling pretty good about the cover. You're not happy with how Kentucky did you last week.
Well, the fact is that I don't know how Kentucky's going to score. Okay. I mean, they couldn't score against South Carolina. I mean, Georgia's defense might score more than the Kentucky offense. So, Like I said, I think they're going to run. I think they're going to run the football. I think they're going to ground and pound. And I mean, I think they pull this game away easily. Like, I would take under Kentucky 13 points today for sure. Like, I just don't. After what I saw last week, I don't see how they score.
Fair enough. It could be 25-0 we're talking about. The Green Wave plays the Oklahoma Sooners. Green Wave gave Kansas State, who absolutely manhandled Arizona last night. Tulane could be the real deal. I like a money line, but you like them to cover the points at 13.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't hate them. I actually don't hate them on the money line. It's a big gamble if you want to do that. But, like, I do think Tulane is going to give Oklahoma all they can handle today. They struggled against Houston. They have not ran the ball well, which they want to do. Gavin Sawchuk has done nothing of what I expected. Jackson Arnold didn't look great last week. And I thought Tulane was going to take a step back after they lost their quarterback, but they bring in this true freshman, Darian Mensah, and he's out there. He was out there doing it against Kansas State. And what we saw last night from Kansas State, maybe this Tulane Green Wave team is better than what we think because they can run the ball with Hughes as well. So I think they're going to give Oklahoma everything they can handle today. Don't be shocked to see them Green Waves be the 2-1 by the end of the day.
I love it. That is Tyler's parlay for this weekend, boys and girls. Go ahead and hop on that on BetUS if you want to get in on that action. Again, that Georgia one's a little sus, but I like what he says. You know, I don't think they're going to score, and Georgia will probably put up 23 points to handle the cover there. Ty, how you feeling? Let me ask you real quick before I let you go. How you feeling about Memphis and FSU today? How you feeling about your boys?
I mean,
okay, fair enough.
This game, they've got to have figured it out. It's week 3. You're supposed to have every person on that defense line is supposed to be an NFL prospect. They literally look like they're not even a Canadian Football League prospect. So, like, we have a problem. So they have got to look themselves in the damn mirror. They better figure out who the hell they are. And DJU, I've had it with him too. He's wasting his talents. I mean, this is insane. The guy has more potential than anybody in the country, and he just don't have it up here. He's got no heart. He's got no emotion. He has more potential than probably any quarterback, and he has more ability than Jordan Travis could ever possibly imagine. But Jordan Travis has more leadership in one pinky that guy has in his whole freaking body.
Ty's fired up, boys. I love it. You guys will see Ty later on Monday Mashup on our Monday morning show. Ty, I appreciate it, big guy. Good to see you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, bye. Thank you. You guys take it easy.
Yes, sir. This show is brought to you again by BetUS as far as that segment as well. Now we're going to top into the Gators. Going against Texas A&M with Allie Peak. Allie, you said we had a chance. Talk to me.
A chip in a chair right now, right? I actually do think Florida has a pretty decent chance in this game. I kind of think it's going to go down to our offensive line versus their defensive line. Texas A&M's defensive line preseason was talked about as one of the best in college football, up there with Miami, up there with Florida State, those D-lines that really are full of, in theory, NFL prospects. And they haven't played that way so far. They're currently ranked 110th in run D. They've also only caused one sack this year, only gotten one sack. So definitely haven't lived up to the standards. So I think if Florida can establish a running game, they can win, they can win this game.
In Florida, look, I mean, that's something Billy's been known for, is the running game, but we haven't really seen it. We saw a little bit of it, flashes of it last week. It was Sanford. Jaden Ball looked very exciting. Will he get more time today? Will be interesting. But let's talk about your breakout player, which is somebody that, look, coming off injury going into the beginning of the season, had a big breakout run against Miami, and then they just chose not to go towards that. Got Montrell Johnson as your guy this week.
Yeah, I think you have to ride Montrell Johnson if you're going to win this game. I think he is, the vet in this running back room. I like Jaden Ball a lot, and I would love to see, him in there some. We've seen Webb some, but your most reliable back is going to be Johnson. If the offensive line can hold it together today against what has been a really bad run D so far, I really do think the Gators can win. So I am looking for Montrell to have a big day.
Unfortunately, I feel like, we saw what we could do offensively through the air with DJ Lagway. I don't want us to get stuck in this rut of running the football because, look, this is going to be a big thing, a big emphasis on Mertz. He did get announced he is the starter going into today. We've heard there's going to be packages for DJ Lagway. What is your thought process, and how do you think the Florida will utilize DJ Lagway today? And do we see DJ taking over this job, or do you think Billy sticks to his guns and rides with Mertz no matter what?
I think he rides with Mertz today. This is the way I'm guessing Napier's looking at it. I think DJ Lagway has a much higher ceiling. I think Graham Mertz has a higher floor. I think Billy is conservative in the way that he calls games. So he's going to pick the guy with the higher floor as opposed to the guy with the higher ceiling. Going back to the running game, that's where the stats tell us we should exploit. So I would assume we're going to be somewhat run heavy today because that's where we have the opportunity to be more successful against this Texas A&M defense. I am concerned about the concept of using both of them because I don't think Billy has a great feel for the game when he's only dealing with one quarterback. So I have no idea how he's going to destroy the rhythm of a game if he's trying to do it with two quarterbacks. And, it's a hard situation. So I almost think it's one of those things where we see Lagway limited unless Mertz struggles. And then that's a difficult situation for him to be in too, because are they struggling because the right side of the line isn't holding up? Are they struggling because wide receivers can't get separation? Like, what if the struggles don't have anything to do with Mertz personally? Do you pull him anyway because you're hoping Lagway gives you a spark? Like, there's a lot of damned if you do, damned if you don't in this quarterback situation this week. I don't envy this position. I guess I envy the $7 million he's getting paid to be in this position. But there's going to be people that are not happy no matter what he does with the quarterback situation this week unless they win.
That's a good point about what the struggle is going to be, right? We're going to put it on the quarterback 85% of the time, but it could be a wide receiver aren't getting separation. It could be he's not getting enough time. And we might see those things, but we're going to go back to, well, DJ did it.
Yeah. I mean, truly, that line could false start. There's things that could kill drives that have nothing to do with the quarterback. And if that's the case, we are going to blame Mertz because that's what a fan base does. Quarterback gets too much blame and too much praise, all the time. But is Napier going to be sticking to his guns because he's looking at it and saying, okay, well, it didn't matter who the quarterback was because this would have happened anyway. I don't know. It's not an enviable position to be in for sure.
You mentioned a good point too, because I talked all offseason about what could be with this package and how they could utilize DJ. After week one, I go, like you just mentioned, I don't think he has it in him to figure out the juggle between the two quarterbacks. And look, he says we're going to get packages. I have a hard time believing him. I don't know if you've even heard what I've said, but we're in a divorce. He's cheated on me. We are in shambles at the moment on how my feeling is with Billy Napier. And so I don't trust him. He's going to tell me one thing and then leave and go sleep with his side girls. I'm not okay with it. So I don't see him using DJ. Well, I would be shocked. And if it is, I guarantee you he brings him in, has him handed off just to please the people. That's what I see happening.
It's like, does he bring him in when the game's already decided one way or the other? Is that his way of appeasing the fan base? And, I know we have had a 2-quarterback system in the past that's been successful at Florida. We can look at Leak and we can look at Tebow, but I don't think we want to use DJ Lagway as a battering ram, which is essentially what we used him for that first season. Sure. It doesn't seem smart. Graham Mertz has already gone out and missed a game once this season. Last year he got hurt. Like, do you really want to risk your backup guy getting hurt when your starter has been injury prone the last 2 years as well? Like, that just doesn't seem like a smart, and DJ has so many talents and skills. Him as a run option is what makes the most sense, I think, as a change of pace. I just don't know that you use him as that because it comes with so many other risks.
For sure. You like the Gators to get it done there? They get 3 points, I believe. 3.5.
Yeah, I do. I think, and that's what I think Florida wins by about is 3 points. I think it's close the entire game. I think it's low scoring. Whoever's defense, I think if we can hold them to 21 points, I feel comfortable that we can score 24-ish. Okay. I do think we're going to play tight the whole game. And it's supposed to rain earlier in the day. Like, is the field wet? Is it like what other, conditions factor in there? I'm sure it'll be 9 bajillion degrees. But, I don't know. This offensive line, if it can't give us some semblance of blocking, I don't know that the rest of this matters.
Absolutely. Allie Peak, don't go anywhere. We'll see you here in just a moment for High Top Table Talk. Thank you again, as always. Quick super chat from man Cam Bishops. That's $20. I'm going to miss you at the Swamp today, brother. I'll bring us home a win. Please do, Cam. I appreciate you good. I will miss you too as well, man. 226 strong, boys and girls. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe. Now let's dive into the fan favorite High Top Table Talk, boys. Let's get it. Oh, boys. Blaze Hayes has made an appearance. I got to change the name now in the title. We got Blaze the Duck and Alley for High Top Table Talk. If this is your first time joining us, how this show works is I ask 3 questions. It goes in order each time. They get 45 seconds to give me their best answer, their best response, and they get points based on how they answer. I am extremely biased, so the better the answer that appeals to me, the more points that they get. Sometimes that's not always the best way, but that's just how I rock and roll, and I'd rather be honest with it. So, Blaze, Derek, Allie, is everybody ready to rock and roll? Any questions before we get started?
Let's get into it.
All right, I love you guys. You guys are professionals at this. Blaze isn't gonna. He's saving it. I love it. I love it a lot. All right, Blaze, you're up first, big guy. You ready?
Always.
First question is, which of these teams is real while the rest are pretenders? We got Mizzou, Boston College, or Oklahoma. Which of the 3 is the real deal while the rest are just pretenders? Ty?
Listen, you got 2 offenses that I think are humming right now. They have the ability to have some semblance of a defense. You have one team with a defense and no semblance of an offense. So I'm going to go Oklahoma right now, but let's understand. They have played with 4 different centers. Their offensive line is completely in shambles right now, and I get it. I think when they're healthy, they're going to be good. But the best ability is availability. And right now, they have no availability. One of their leading wide receivers out for the year. Another one continually injured. Another one battling the yips at this point. When is Oklahoma going to be healthy? Because they play Heupel next in Tennessee. And yes, they have a defense, but Heupel will kill you going underneath and going over top. And right now, their defense gives everything up underneath.
Duck?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mizzou here. Mizzou's defense is yet to give up a point this year. I think they're outscoring opponents something like 90-0 this year. Mind you, they have played the high-quality opponents such as Murray State and Buffalo, but I do believe in Luther Burden. I think he's one of the best receivers in the country. I think eventually this offense gets to humming, even more. They do have a favorable schedule that's going throughout this year. And I think that today against Boston College, they do get a top 25 team. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to show out the country exactly who they are.
I love it. Oh, with time on the clock left, Allie.
Okay, well, first of all, fact correction, 89-0. Missouri has outscored their opponents. And, I will tell you, though, I agree. I think Missouri is the real deal here. And coupled with the fact that they could trip and go 10-2 in the SEC, I think makes them, the realest of all, although they're all probably pretenders. Boston College beat a bad Florida State team. Maybe this game will give us an idea, is Boston College even legitimately good, or is FSU just that bad? Oklahoma has an okay quarterback. They don't have any wide receivers. They have a bad offensive line. It's their first year in the SEC. I think they are really, really going to get beat up. I do agree there's a couple good NFL.
I thought you asked for which one was the pretender.
I mean, no, the real deal. And then why the rest are pretenders. You got to listen, Blaze. I listen. Yeah, that's on you, Blaze. Hey, for questioning the question.
Listening's not my strong suit.
For questioning the question, I'm taking one away. Because everyone else heard the question, so I'm not taking blame on this one. Allie hit all the key points there. She dragged FSU. She dragged Oklahoma. You guys got to keep up with it. And she fact-checked Derek the Duck. I mean, that's a trifecta that I've ever seen one. Blazes, I don't know if he's pissed or if he just got the wig on too tight. I can't tell. Maybe I misasked the question, Blaze. I'm sorry, but I apologize. All right, here we go. Derek the Duck, you're leading the way on this one, big guy. Who is most likely to cover today? We've got the Dogs, got 22 points to get over Kentucky. They're 1-8 headed into the bye. We got the Ducks, and we know what they haven't been able to do. That's cover it all this year. And then we've got Bama against Wisconsin, 16 points to cover Wisconsin. Ty gave us a little hint on that one, but what are we thinking? Duck?
Yeah, you know who I'm going to choose. Give me Alabama. I think Alabama covers today. Wisconsin, they're a team like he mentioned, they're kind of searching for their identity both offensively and defensively. And I think Alabama matches up really well against the Wisconsin Wisconsin defense. And then in terms of the Wisconsin offense, I don't know if they truly have an identity yet on that side of the ball either. I think they're going to try to run the ball effectively. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. And in terms of, Tyler Van Dyke, like we said, he has some ability and we've seen what he's able to do. But at the very same time, do we really trust him to come in and beat a high quality team like Alabama? Me personally, I don't. I will say I do like the direction Luke Fickell's taking this Wisconsin team, but I think Alabama kind of has their way with Wisconsin today.
Time. I love it. Allie?
Okay, I honestly think Georgia is the team more likely to cover here. Kentucky lost to South Carolina by 25 points. Georgia is going to absolutely dominate Kentucky. I don't know that Kentucky is even going to be able to score any points against them. I think Beck and the offense is going to roll on them. And honestly, Bama struggled with USF. If you just look at the box score, you think like, okay, this was another Bama game where they just crushed an inferior opponent. It didn't look like that at all if you watched it on TV. That game was not decided until honestly halfway through the fourth quarter. Have been less than impressed with Alabama so far. So I think that Wisconsin's going to give them a game.
Ty?
Blaze? Listen, George is the right answer, but that duck, that's a smart duck down there. I like that duck down there. And let me say something. Listen, you're right. For 3.5 quarters, it didn't look good. But what happened? What was the bright line that Alabama broke to then blow USF out the water? They put in their starting right tackle, who they wanted to hold out. Then it was bang, 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 3 touchdowns quick. They scored 21 points in a matter of 3 minutes. Now, this is an offense that can score with the best of them. Some of the most explosive plays in the nation. Wisconsin doesn't have any semblance of being able to move the ball on offense. Their defense is in shambles. Their best defensive player is out for the first half for targeting. They can't control the edge. Sure, they have one cornerback, but outside of that, Alabama has multiple wide receivers that are 10-4 or less guys. Ryan Williams ran a 10.39 as a sophomore.
Who's your answer? Because you said the Dogs and then you defended Alabama.
I said Georgia. Georgia will cover, but Bama's going to cover too. Okay. Listen, Blaze is here to take
they're all. I was making sure. I was like,
no,
is he mad at Allie? I don't know.
No, Oregon's not covering.
I like.
Oregon's not covering.
I like the spiciness.
I got no fire back.
I don't like
Bama
this duck.
and Georgia, they're covering.
I don't like this duck. All right, I love that we get to start off with this one with Allie here. You ready, Allie?
I'm very nervous about this and somewhat hungover. So, sure.
I was about to say, I was like, she walks around Epcot 2 laps and she still comes firing in, guys. You got to lock it in here, okay? Here we go. Would Lane really leave Ole Miss for Florida, Allie?
I think Lane Kiffin would crawl over broken glass to leave Ole Miss for the University of Florida. Now, do I think that's the smartest move if I'm Lane Kiffin? Probably not. He has all the co-eds he wants. He can win 8 to 10 games a year for the rest of his life, and everybody would be happy, and he's making ridiculous money. But he is a cocky son of a bitch who loves a challenge, and he would love the opportunity to come to Gainesville. He is Spurrier when he was younger in the way that he runs his mouth. There is no place that embraces a coach like that better than the University of Florida. I think Lane Kiffin could slide right in there. Honestly, I think he'd be great for UF because he'd call the UAA out in his press conferences if he needed to. He would.
All aboard the Lane train is what Allie just confirmed. Blaze Hayes, you got to get blazing here, big guy. Rock and roll.
Would Lane leave? Well, listen, I think he does love a challenge, but why would he leave something that's looking good for something that's been objectively terrible for the past few years?
All right.
You're paying 2 coaches ago. You're going to be paying Billy here. He doesn't want to take over with that 2025 schedule. You have terrible administration. Everything at the top stinks. It reeks of ineptitude. And why would anybody want to go there? Sure, the Florida brand is good. It's been good, but that was what? I mean, Jesus, kindergartners are now grown and driving at this point now. They don't remember that. So at the point where kindergartners have no memory of what was, why would Lane Kiffin leave what is built for something that, just like I said, reeks of ineptitude at this point?
That was hard for me giving points, but when you make valid points, it's hard for me not to give you points. Double fries and a slaw here says Allie just won. I feel like he comes in here late, just out of nowhere, from the clouds. 2 double slaw does. It's just to kind of facilitate. Easy. All right, Duck, you got to bring it in here, boy guy. What do we got?
Yeah, I said my opinion before the show. I think Lane Kiffin, when Sunbelt Billy is gone, I think he's a shoe into Florida. I think he would absolutely love the challenge, as Allie alluded to here. And I think Florida is a wonderful brand, to kind of step into. Lane is a dude who loves the spotlight, so I think he would like the challenge of, bringing Florida back to prominence for the first time in a very long time. And also, Ole Miss, like he said, they're in shambles over there. Ole Miss is never going to be a team, in my opinion, who's going to win a national championship. And I think Lane understands that. So I think Lane is actually absolutely crawling for, to get to Florida. And I think, to be real honest, he's a big Texas A&M fan today. I think he wants to seal Sunbelt Billy's fate today and, get ready to sign his little contract to be the next head coach in Gainesville.
I love it. Allie absolutely skull dragged both of you, and I'm glad for those last answers there because I wouldn't have been well if I would have given you guys 5 points for High Top for calling it double slaw. my bad. I'm trying to read and keep points. I'm getting yelled at by Blaze. I can't tell if he's pissed again or if he's just again the wig's too tight. I don't know. But Allie P gets it done, ladies and gentlemen. Well done. Hey, if you guys need tips or tricks, go get drunk the day before and then come on the show hungover. Clearly, that is the key to success on having a High Top Table Talk. Allie, you get 30 seconds to kind of tell us your take. Go ahead. Take it away.
All right. Well, I really think that Florida is going to be looking for a new coach by the end of the season. And so this was just a softball question topped up there, but I appreciate you guys for participating. And, one of these days, if you drink enough on Friday, you will be able to hang with me on Saturday.
The softball question. Look, I honestly I didn't think it would be that much of a softball. I thought the other guys would have more chance. You really want
Colorado. That was my thought process.
What was it?
I thought you were going to ask about Deion in Colorado and the train wreck that's going on.
Oh, yeah. There. Afterwards, I was getting ready for the show and I saw them talking about it on High Top. I was like, or on ESPN. I probably should have thrown that question in there because I was struggling this morning with some questions. But the Lane one's been hot. It's been rolling. Pun intended this weekend. We got Allie Peak. Allie, tell them where they can give you a find on X and Twitter and YouTube. That's the same place, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You can find me on X or Twitter for us that refuse to call it X. It's at Alec_Peak. And on YouTube, you can find me a peek inside Florida Gator football.
Blaze Hayes.
Yeah, you can find me at Around the Table Sports, the Bama Standard, the SEC Connect, and on Bleacher Report every Friday doing their National College Football Pick'em show, plus every Saturday after the Alabama games, breaking it down, and on the occasional time they have me doing the general SEC content. So find me on Bleacher Report.
I always, real quick, I always have a special love for Alabama. You know me, when FSU went down to Alabama in the playoffs, Roll Tide became a motto for me. So there always be love.
Yeah, those guys suck.
There will always be a love for plays in Bama Roll Tide. We got Derek the Duck. Where can they find you, Derek?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start out by saying if Oregon loses today, you're not going to be able to find me anywhere. I'm jumping off all of socials. But for right now, you can find me on X, definitely not Twitter, at High Top Oregon. We stay pretty active there. And of course, you can catch me at High Top Oregon on YouTube as well for a couple weekly shows. But like I said, you guys better be rooting for the Ducks today, because if they can't get it done, I don't think you'll ever see my face again.
This show's going to be in shambles. A couple of jabs
I'm
there.
so sorry, Duck. You're a good Duck, but I think the Beavers get it done.
Oh man.
This was a spicy one. I love it.
You got the 89th ranked defense in the nation, and you couldn't score against the 128th ranked defense in the nation. I don't know.
Hey. We're not dragging here, all right? There's love around these parts. We got to wrap this show up, man. I got to go cry or something.
I love it. Such a screw this guy. I don't know who he's talking about. Duck, Blaze, all of the above. This has been a spicy show. I love it. Thank you to all three
He's
of
a
you.
Florida fan. He's probably talking about me, which is fine. Y'all screwed up so many seasons. I get why you're angry. Hey, you don't know what winning looks like.
Where was this Blaze
fine.
a minute ago? All right, I gotta go.
How do you spell winning? That's an
This guy's out of control.
Ain't
Boys
Florida.
and girls, hope you guys enjoyed today's show, High Top Game Day. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe. We go live every Saturday at 9:35 for High Top Game Day, and be back on Sunday at 9:35 a.m. for our Monday mashup where we recap all of the games. This show, of course, was brought to you by BetUS. Have a great Saturday. Got a great slate at noon, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace and love, baby.